Hey guys, welcome back to my son's channel. Today I'm going to go about changing out my external wastegate. Currently I'm running a tile 38mm gate, and I'm going to be changing it out for a 44mm gate. What I've been experiencing is really kind of an uncontrolled boost surge, basically from 6,000 onward, where it skyrockets from like 24 to 30 psi. And no matter what I do, I can't keep that in line. The goal right now is to try and get a steady boost curve, something that is in the 18 psi range, and then I can raise it up so that I have more boost down low, and hopefully it stays that way, as opposed to if I raise it up right now, it's gates open at about 18 psi, and what happens is by the end it's skyrocket up to 30, so I can't get any low end boost on the current setup. So there's a couple things I'm thinking about. One is either the wastegate placement is a problem, or the tube diameter is a problem, or the wastegate itself, the diameter of the 35mm, is just not bypassing enough gas around the turbine. So hopefully this works. If not, it's going to be a little bit more modification of the header. If I have to, I'm going to wind up having to place the wastegate on the header as opposed to where I've mounted it on the back of the turbo, more like a traditional internal gate would be mounted. So hopefully this works. Let's see what happens. Thanks for watching. Alright, so we're going to take a quick look at the three wastegates that I've now collected. The first wastegate is actually a Turbonetics Delta Gate Mark II. This is kind of the old school first gate that I got. This gate here measures about 1 inch and 3/16. This was my first go around. I used this when I had a Turbonetics T3 T4 Super V Stage 3 turbo. This actually worked pretty well on that setup, but I was only making a little bit of power at the time. So what I needed to do is I needed to switch over to something a little bit more flow with the GT35R. This turbocharger, this Delta Gate, I was experiencing some boost spiking, uncontrollable boost. So when I switched over to the tile 38mm Sport, this was a little bit better than the Delta Gate. This measures 1 3/8 of an inch, which is what the pipe is coming off the back side of the turbo, but still I'm having boost creep, significant boost creep, and then boost spiking at the end of the rev range. So now the goal is to go to a 44mm gate, which is like 1.5 inches. This is significantly bigger. The only issue I see is that the pipe coming off the turbo is only 1 3/8 inches, so that might now be the limiting factor. So I kind of expecting to fail here. Kind of failed a lot, but we'll see what happens. So what I have here is temporarily an adapter. This goes from the 2-bolt flange that works on the 38mm gate and the Delta Gate to switch over to a V-band. And what it is, it's kind of tapered. It goes from 1 3/8 inches up to 1.5 inches. So you can kind of, I don't know if you can kind of see that taper, but definitely gets larger on the 44mm gate size. This basically will bolt up temporarily to my downpipe or my wastegate port and allow me to temporarily mount the tile gate. The goal right now is just to see if this will work before I go modify it any further. Alright guys, so what I've done is I've mounted the adapter to go from the 2-bolt flange to the V-band clamp of the tile wastegate, and now I'm going to go ahead and mount it. I'm going to be honest with you, the installation's actually fairly straightforward. I'd be surprised with my luck if this thing actually fixed my problem, but hey, listen, what I got to lose? It's either this or rework the header, which I really don't want to do. So alright, let's see how it goes. So I've got the V-band clamp. Gonna position the header in place. I mean the down pipes. The wastegate, if you will, in place. I've installed the fire ring on the wastegate. The hardest part is probably going to be trying to get this actually holding it in place while putting the V-bend clamp on. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Hopefully it fits. If I put the clamp on first, if it'll work. Get the clamp on. So interestingly enough, kind of ran into my first problem, although not insurmountable. The Allen heads for the mount are a little bit too deep, and it'll make getting the bracket on a little bit difficult. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the lock washer off, install it temporarily, see what happens, and I'll get some bolts or something. We'll grind the head. Alright guys, so I was able to get the gate installed. Getting the gate installed was fairly straightforward with the adapter that I wound up using. So really the next steps are to take it for a quick test drive. What I've done is I've connected the wastegate to the side port, which is the way I had it set up initially. Hopefully, if this works, I'll wind up fabricating a dump pipe, if you will. I don't know, I'm going to wind up rotating the gate, but right now I'm pointing it away from the starter, only because I'm sure it's going to get hot. But what I'll wind up doing is I'll probably rotate the gate in this direction and to this direction and come out with the pipe here like I did previously. That should worked out okay, but I don't want to fabricate a pipe if I don't need to, if this doesn't work. So the next step is to get it on the road, do a quick data log, turn down the boost gauge, or actually turn down the eBoost 2 controller, so that it, I don't know what it's going to boost at in the current setting based on the duty cycle of the gate. So we'll see how this works out.
Okay guys, just got back from testing the car, and unfortunately it was an unsuccessful test. Currently, just to reiterate, it's a 44mm tile gate, and what I did was I ran the car through 3rd and 4th gear, and the hopes were that I would get a consistent boost level at whatever the setting was on the eBoost 2 gauge. So based on this, this is the beginning of the graph. This is basically 3rd gear. Starts out at about I don't know, 3,300 RPM, the log, and it's starting to build boost by about 2.2 psi, and the gate cracks open at about 4,500 RPM, roughly, at about 16.5 pounds of boost. So you get this kind of little bit of a boost spike, and then it gains control of the boost. The boost drops down a little bit, and I get a little bit of fluctuation in 3rd gear, and then at the peak RPM, which is about 6,500, when I shifted, I'm at about 13.5 pounds of boost. Then when I shift into 4th gear, it picks up at about peak boost. It opened up the gate again at about 16 psi at about 4,500 RPM, and then I basically revved the motor out to redline. But you could see it held the boost relatively consistently with a little bit of boost creep. But at about 5,800, in this region here, the boost starts to go significantly out of control. So by about 6,000 RPM, at about 17 pounds of boost, and by the end of the RPM range, which is about 6,600, at about 24.3 pounds. So what I think is basically happening here is that the internal wastegate port on the turbine housing basically is too small, and that's the choking factor, if you will, that doesn't matter what size gate I put on the back end or on the dump tube, if you will, it just won't flow enough exhaust gas around the turbine, basically, or the turbine. Basically, what it appears is I've done by doing the 3-inch mandrel bent exhaust all the way back. I've created little resistance from after the turbine wheel, and the exhaust gas in the header has no reason, if you will, to bypass the turbine wheel. And instead, it flows through it, and as the RPM increased, so does the boost. So at this point, there's basically two options. Number one, I port the internal wastegate, open it up to the diameter of the tube that goes from the back of the turbine housing to the wastegate, which is 1 3/8 inches. That's probably the first option I'll try. The second is to ditch this setup altogether and just tap the header with the external wastegate, which is probably the more common solution, but it just doesn't really package well in my scenario. So stay tuned. I appreciate you guys tuning in. So really that's the next step. I'm going to port the internal port on the internal gate, and we'll see how that goes. Again, thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.